In-app updates is a feature which helps you keep your users running your app's latest version. It just shows a pop-up within the app saying that, hey, there's an update available. The user can then choose to download the update in-app without having to go to the Play Store. There's no need to have your own complicated back-end service just to help your app check for updates. Now there are two types of in-app update available. There's immediate and flexible, and I'll be going through both of these and showing how they work shortly. An immediate update is when a dialog is shown to the user and it prompts them to update the app now. And if they choose yes, then they can't use the app until it's complete. And on the other hand, flexible allows the user to download the update in the background and continue using the app. It'll then tell them that the update is finished and they can continue to install it. Now just a note here that testing this is a bit tricky. I will explain towards the end why this is, so just stick around for that, but just keep it in mind that it's not as straightforward as you might think. Now there are a few requirements here for in-app updates. Firstly, it only works on devices running Lollipop, that's API 21 and up. You have to use the Play Core library version 1.5.0 and up. And it only supports Android mobile devices and tablets and Chrome OS devices. So maybe just something to keep in mind depending on what your app runs on. So let's have a look at how it works in code. First off, I'm just going to add a dependency because that's how Android development works. At the current time of recording, the latest version is 1.6.4, but please do check for you what the latest version is. It's always good to use the latest stuff out there. So that's about all for the build.gradle. Just also take note that up here, I have fake configured a signing configs block. This relates to the testing thing that I mentioned earlier where it's a bit tricky. So for now, I'm just going to go put in my signing details here and then we'll continue with the demo. Alright, first up, let's look at how immediate updates work. And this is the update type where your user can't carry on using the app while it's downloading. So I've just got an activity here and I'm going to get an instance of what they call the app update manager, which is just done like this. In Kotlin, I'm just using a lazy field just because it's nice and cool to use. But you essentially are using the app update manager factory.create and then you give it a context. Right, and then you have an app update manager you can use. It's a bit of a tongue twister. So from there, I'm going to use that update manager on create and I'm going to get the app update info from there. Now this is a task object, so we have to add listeners on success and on failure. Now on success, it comes in here when you actually did get info on the latest update. In here, we need to add checks. For example, do we actually have an update available? We can do that by writing if its update availability is update availability dot update available and its is update type allowed update type update type dot immediate, because that's the one we're looking at now. I don't know how to format this to make it look readable. I don't know if that works. But essentially, if there is an update available and the immediate update is allowed, from here we can actually go and show the dialog. That's pretty simple to do. We just say app update manager dot start update flow for result. In here we give it a few parameters. First of all, it's the app update info that we just got back. And then again, we give it the type, and for now we're doing immediate. And then what activity are we in? We're in this activity. And then the request code, which I'm sure you're familiar with starting activity for result. It's just that thing. So I've got a constant at the top that I'm going to use. And that's all that you need to do to actually show the dialog that says, hey, there's a new version available. Now on failure, I just want to put a log statement just so that I can actually see if something went wrong, and it makes it a bit easier to debug. Alright, now let's go and see what that looks like. I'm going to go and run it here. Keep in mind this isn't done yet, the code still needs to be added onto. I just want to run it and we can just actually get an idea of what's happening. So just open the emulator and hopefully it won't take too long, shouldn't do. Okay, there we go. So we should see an update dialog here. Ah, look at that. So right, we didn't create any of this ourselves. It's all within that Play Core library thingy. So we see in-app updates needs an update. That's just the name of your app. And the download size it gives you to use the app, download the latest version. We have a nice button and then we have the logo at the bottom. Note up here that you also have a dismiss or a cancel button, because if the user, for example, is not on Wi-Fi, they might want to not download it now. So let's see what happens if we click update. go ahead and downloads, and we get nice little animations and everything. It installs it as well. And then it relaunches the app. That is pretty awesome and really nice feature because we don't have to do any work at all really. Now if I go back and if I launch the app again, you'll see that it just opens it and no updates because there's no update available. Pretty straightforward. But I just want to uninstall it now so we can go back to the old version. Right, there are a few more things you want to add here. One of them is optional and the other one is pretty much required. So on resume here, we need to do another check. Let's just see what that looks like. I'm going to go and do the app update manager on success thing again. Just copy and paste because that's how we roll. But instead of checking if the update is available, I want to check if there's check this thing called developer triggered update in progress and take out the other condition there. This is basically saying that if the user somehow closed the app while it was downloading, right, then we'll need to somehow resume the update. That's basically what it boils down to. So if the update's availability is developer triggered update in progress, then we start the flow again to resume the update. Pretty straightforward, I think, there. Now the other one is on activity result. This is kind of optional and depends on how you want your app to behave. For example, we saw that we had the cancel button on that dialog. If the user decides, I don't want to download it now, you could choose to also close your app because you want them to download it, or you could just choose to do nothing really, or show a message or something like that. Depends on what you want. But I'm going to implement something here that says, if the request code was our request code that we're looking for, and the result code equals result cancelled, right? The user cancelled the update, then I'm just going to finish the activity because I need you to update before you can continue using the app. Alright, so let's just see that when we cancel the update, the app does close as well, so I'm not lying to you. Here we go. So again, we see our dialog because we uninstalled the newer version. If I click cancel, then our app just closes and the user pretty much has to update. Now remember that if I didn't have this on activity result code, and if the user presses cancel, they can still carry on using the app. So again, it depends on your use case and how you want it to behave. But that is pretty much all you need to do for the immediate update type, right? It's just checking if there's an update available, start the update flow, and then if the user cancelled it, just resume it, and then whatever else you want on activity result. Pretty straightforward. So now I want to have a look at implementing flexible updates, and the code is pretty similar, to be honest. A few slight differences here and there. But let's go to, I'm just going to copy the app update manager. If we go to our flexible activity here, paste in that is pretty much the same thing. And we can copy and paste most of this code as well, to be honest, for checking if the update is available. Importantly now though, we'll change the immediate type here to flexible, of course. We don't want to make lovely copy and paste mistakes. And now it works a bit differently. You don't really need on activity for result, but what you need to do is you register a listener here. And this listener will get notified obviously when various things are happening to the update, but for what I'm interested in here, we say if the install state is install status dot downloaded, right? The update is finished downloading, but it's not installed yet. In here we can show a snack bar to the user that says the update is downloaded, do you want to install it now? So let's just go ahead and copy and paste some snack bar code because that's pretty boring. Just going to make a method like that. Right, pretty normal snack bar stuff. The only interesting part here is that we set the action of the snack bar to app-update-manager.complete-update, which will then go and install the update for the user. So obviously in here we just need to show the snack bar message there. Okay, let's have a look at what that looks like. I'm just gonna uninstall the latest version again from the emulator and change my activity here to run this flexible one instead. And let's have a look, shall we? We should see a dialog again, but slightly different. Okay, here we go. Now we see a nice dialog again, and it's a different style. It's kind of more apparent to the user that they can dismiss it and carry on with the app, which is quite nice. So it also says you can keep using the app while downloading the update, so it's good that they can see that. If we click update, it will go and download in the background, and we'll see a snack bar that says it's downloaded with an install button. We click install, and we see the similar screen to what we saw with the immediate updates. It's going to go ahead and install the update and relaunch the app, and then boom, the user is now running the latest version of the app, which I think is a really neat feature, and I don't know, just a lot less code than it would be if you had to do this stuff manually. There's just one small thing we need to do though before we finish here, and that's again in onResume, similarly to the immediate update one, but it's a little bit different. So I'm just going to go again and copy the getting of the app update info method in onSuccessListener, and I'm going to copy as well the listener code that was checking. If the install status is downloaded, then we show the snack bar to the user. Basically, if they close the app before installing your update, then they relaunch it again, you will immediately show the snack bar saying that the update is ready and you can install it. So pretty neat and pretty cool, but I think that's actually all. Wow, now looking at it, there's actually so little code to manage all of this. And typically you would probably put a lot of this stuff in a view model of some sort, because you wouldn't want all this listener stuff and if checks and things like that in your activity. So in a view model would be pretty good, and you can use mock instances of the app update manager to test various things like that. But anyway, I'm not going to cover it in this video. I'm actually pretty much done with the code perspective. Now at the start I mentioned that testing is a bit tricky, and this is where you should really listen up, because it can make your life a real misery if you don't know how to test. So there are a few requirements to be able to and when I say test, I don't mean unit test, I mean just launch the app and test and see that the dialog is showing up. There are a few requirements here. You have to have downloaded the app from the Play Store before, right? So that your Gmail account owns that app, so then you can see updates, right? I went ahead and downloaded it on my phone first, and then I'm able to use it on the emulator. So the next requirement is that the application you're running on the emulator needs to have firstly the same application ID as on the Play Store, and the same signing key as the one you used for publishing to the Play Store. Right, at the beginning of the demo you saw that I had the signing configs block here, and inside here I've put all the secret stuff like the store password and the key store file and everything. It's not just going to be blank like this. And then I'm also running the release build type. If you look here on my variants, I'm running a release build, and then I've set the signing config for the release type to the signing config that we set up here. And then I also use that same key store to build the application APK that I published to the store. I hope that makes sense, because there's a lot of words and things, but essentially you need to have the same application ID here, and you need to have the same signing key when you're running it on the emulator. Otherwise, you'll get weird errors printed out in the log. And then the last requirement is kind of a bit obvious, but just don't forget, is that you need to use a version code that is lower than the one on the Play Store, right? I published my APK with version code 5, just because, and then locally I've been testing with version code 1, which is obviously lower than 5, so it sees that, hey, there's an update available, which is version code 5. So, pretty obvious I think, but just make sure you don't forget it, because it could cause a lot of pain and confusion. But that's all I've got to show off for in-app updates, I think. It's a really neat feature, and we're actually implementing it at our work soon, so do take a look at it. It does make life a lot easier for you, and keeping users up to date with your app can be a pain. I know a lot of people that just don't update their apps. They don't ever really look at the Play Store and update all the apps there, so this can easily bring to the user's attention that, hey, there's a new update available and you want them to get it. But anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed. I wanted to mention, as well, that I have created a Discord server. I'm not sure if anyone's interested in that, but it basically can be like kind of a community thing where we discuss Android, ask various questions, maybe get help, and then also show some memes and talk about any other random stuff. So do check it out if you're interested, I'll put a link below. Anyway, gone on for long enough. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, and cheers for now.